Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on this rainy Saturday morning. We are broadcasting live from Atlanta, from Mallory and Tyler's and Chandler's, and I'm broadcasting from the temporary studio. You notice you don't see the SEC map that Barnwood Brenda made for me in the background, but tell you what, man, a lot going on. We saw the $1 Million Band buses last night parked outside of Costco. Went to dinner last night. Went to see Santa Claus with Chandler, her first trip to see Santa Claus over there for pictures and everything. That was pretty cool. And the $1 Million Band was parked at the Costco there on Cumberland in Smyrna. So they're in town. Georgia fans, Alabama fans, everybody descending on Mercedes-Benz Stadium today. And, of course, while you're there, you ought to go over and check out that College Football Hall of Fame. And that is absolutely awesome. Kimberly Bowden and the great people there do a phenomenal job of telling the story of college football and why we love it so much. And, hey, shout out to David Purcell Farms down there in Sylacauga, right outside of Sylacauga. Absolutely gorgeous place. I know he's listening, watching right now. Got a great lineup today, man. We'll have on this edition of Savant Saturday, Coach Philip Lawley was going to be back on with us, and then he's got a lot going on this morning. Can't do it. We'll get him back on next week. Love having him break down what's happening in college football. Dave Tompkins is with us over in Beaufort, South Carolina, the Low Country, right there. That's where the Shamrocks fly out of, I've been told. It's a great Marine aviators, not Marine pilots, Marine aviator fighter squadron over there near Paris Island and Hilton Head and all that beautiful area. We do this 6 days a week, 25 times a month, at least 300 shows a year. And a lot of people listening today. The split is on in Arkansas. No duck hunting today. Season resumes again December 9th, as does horse racing at Oaklawn. And I know Frank is hoping that happens. And as I start bringing everybody out of the bullpen in here, we're getting a little bit of an echo. Somebody, I don't know, may have a phone on or something. Yeah. But anyway, lots to cover. Walked outside and it's raining, and I'm wearing this new cool reversible vest from Duck Camp. You know where I got that? Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. Got more cool stuff in there. We'll talk about them during the show. And again, got a great new sponsor we picked up. Absolutely love having my friend Justin Ross. He said, hey, I want to be on your show, the Vitamin Shop, or as Nigel calls it, the Vitamin Shop. But he's got 2 locations in Olive Branch, Mississippi, 5338 Goodman Road, and also one in Oxford, Mississippi, that will be opening in March. That's under construction right now. We're talking a lot about it. Gentlemen.
Tomatoes.
Yeah. Hey, tomatoes. Now, today's redneck word of the day, Frank, Dave, and Doug, is mayonnaise. Mayonnaise, a lot of college football fans in downtown Atlanta today. And so, I mean, but I watched that Pac-12 championship game last night. I got to say, that was pretty cool. They don't play defense out there. And it just makes the case. I want Bo Nix. I love that kid. I want him to be successful. But they do not play the defenses. And the kids don't even look the same. The muscles, I mean, they're just – we have just the greatest student athletes playing college football in the Southeastern Conference that there are anywhere in the country. And for Jaden Daniels to have to go up against that every week, I mean, I'll write his speech for him. Doug,
I think one stat says it all. One stat says it all.
Yeah.
So across all the conference championship games today, the second most expensive ticket is in the Jerry Dome, the Big 12 championship, $56. In the Arthur Blank Dome today in Atlanta, the minimum ticket price is $390. That says it all.
I sold my 2 for $1,000, and I could have probably got another $300 or $400 from them. They're great seats. But I will tell you, we saw, this very clearly, there's SEC speed on defense, and then there's Pac-12 speed on defense. I will fess up, I did not see the game last night. I took an early evening, but I watched the highlights, and what you saw on display last night, I heard was a very exciting game. I love the highlights. I saw the endings. But what you saw was two quarterbacks who were in the running for the Heisman that came up short with last night's performances. And the reason I'm sitting here in a number 9 LSU jersey, which I thought was very appropriate for today, grab your bongs, everybody, and fill up the bowl, because the stat that I'm about to give you almost trumps Dave Tompkins, his stat. And that is, yes, look at the stats that Jaden Daniels put up on offense. But then also consider that the 3 losses that LSU had were to teams that have a combined 3 losses. But wait, it gets better. The teams that those 3 teams lost to only have 2 losses. That is mind-blowing, the type of competition that this kid put up video game type numbers to. And it was not lost that LSU ran a billboard ad in Las Vegas for last night's game that said that kid Jaden and his picture up there. I think LSU just won its 3rd Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, Frank, you're having a little bit of trouble hearing you. You don't sound like you normally do. I don't know if it's the speaker or what it is, but great points, and I agree with him. Doug, jump in here now as well, because this is a big day, and next Saturday we got Army and Navy, and then that night we've got the Heisman. So we got a lot of college football folks. Don't go into meltdown yet or ever.
On behalf of Rob Browne, I want to welcome our viewers to the Jaden Daniels infomercial.
Hey, wait, what did they say in Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross? Always be closing. Always be closing.
No, on a serious note, you know when the Heisman experience lost me, and I sort of recaptured it in 2010, if you know what I mean. But when you can leave Peyton Manning out, come on.
Or when Ron Dane beats out Joe Hamilton, who's a personal friend of mine, that was a travesty.
Yeah, and if memory serves, when Bo Jackson won the undisputed, with apologies to Herschel Walker fans, he was unbelievable. But the undisputed greatest football athlete of all time, most people say Bo Jackson. There's a bunch of others, but they announced it in the closest Heisman vote in history.
Yep.
How does that happen? Was it Chuck Long at Iowa?
Yeah,
it was Chuck Long.
And so this is, and nothing against Chuck Long, and I think there was sort of a moving, emotional story, if I remember, about his younger brother and an illness battling. So when you hand this stuff over to mediates, I like to call them, and they have a job to do, and then you get regional bias, you get statistical bias, and I'd vote for Jaden Daniels. I don't think it's close, especially after Bo had to win that game last night, or at least he had to lose in a controversial way and have all kinds of numbers. I think Daniels may have already had it wrapped up last night, because some of these guys vote early, don't they? If memory serves.
Well, one thing I will say this, I got to be, thank you to Ken Capps and Bo Carter. I'm a member now of the Football Writers Association of America. I mean, you have to be very secretive, and I respect that. In fact, Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South, was on with us Thursday morning. You got to love the Irish Catholics, man, and he's one of them. And I asked him about the Heisman. There you go, and he goes, and Doug, and I don't know if Dave is, but he can still be in our club. And but anyway, I asked him about the Heisman, and Connor was very like, hey, I cannot say who I'm voting for, but then he said something, but I'll just say this, and it was.
You can read between the lines.
Yeah,
so
you can read between the lines.
What I love about this is I can stall talking about Jaden Daniels and the championship game for 2 hours and not have to talk about the last minute of that Iron Bowl. Oh boy, but it was a classic. I was sitting there in the north end zone, row 10, with my daughter and her Bama grad husband, a great guy y'all have met, Kyle Odell, and then my youngest daughter's boyfriend, also a Bama grad. What is it with these daughters? Didn't raise them right. Boy. And so in the span of 60 seconds, it was the visual tale of what both fan bases experienced. I saw my young men who take care of these daughters slumped over in their seat, Dave, like, after that bad snap, and then the penalty of Milroe going for the second time, going past the line of scrimmage. But I did turn to my daughter, Laura, and I've been around this too long. I said, it wouldn't shock me if Bama hits a throw in the end zone. And she said, you're kidding. No way. And I said, when you're my age, you'll understand. And but then in that span of 60 seconds, we swapped places with the Bama fans who were piled up, hugging, screaming, and we were slumped in our seats. And that's the Iron Bowl, isn't it, Dave?
Well, it sure is. And today, December 2nd, is the 51-year anniversary of 1716. In the fourth quarter, the University of Alabama leads the Auburn Tigers 16-0 as we pick up the play-by-play. So it's going to be fourth down. That I think there's a lesson that could have been learned from that game that Auburn should have known last Saturday, which is, Auburn went after both those kicks. You rush Milroe on fourth and goal from the 31. I mean, you don't rush two people. You don't give them all day to throw. Of course, I was very happy.
Told us the defense. Coach Lally was on this show and told us the defense.
Bingo. Yeah, and not only that, Duff, I talked to Philip Lally Wednesday, and there were some things he shared I won't put on air, but he was just repeating what his philosophy was. His biggest problem, and he understands the difficult call Ron Roberts and Freeze had in that moment. You feel like you can use vision, watch the ball through the air because it was a 40-yard pass. You've got a second or two to break on it, high point it, and knock it away. But what Lally said was my biggest problem with that was it was a passive call.
Yes.
In the Iron Bowl, the character of the Iron Bowl, even if you're going to lose, it calls for attacking. That doesn't mean rush 7, but you better rush 4 or 5. And you know how many Philip Lally said? I couldn't believe it. Lally said, I would have rushed 6 right there because in his thinking was, I'm going to play man coverage, and all 6 of my guys, they know who they're covering, and that's almost easier than trying to play zone in the end zone.
Yes, the unknown or letting somebody go. Let me tell you. Options come with time. And the last thing you wanted as an Auburn fan, frankly, as an LSU fan, I lived y'all's pain too. I think I went to Dr. Schwartz 3 times for therapy this week, just alone on that. But I will tell you, you don't have elongated plays because the options is what you did not want to give to Alabama. You absolutely needed to rush 4 people on that. I was absolutely flabbergasted to watch 2 guys rushing. I could have sat back there and threw it because you didn't want to leave the chance that someone got separation, which is what exactly happened. You don't give that opportunity. I'm not saying blitz everybody, but with 4 people, that play gets condensed to half the time.
And correct. For you Coen Brothers fans, the Coen Brother movie makers, Dr. Schwartz was also the prison psychiatrist in Raising Arizona.
That's right.
And here's also, this is kind of cathartic for me to get it out of my system, you guys. But here's the end. Of course, we all get to be fake defensive coordinators now, like we really know the game. And what I don't know is, maybe they were factoring in that the defensive front was gassed by that point in the game, and you're not going to get pressure on. That's a good offensive line. We had not gotten Milroe to the ground at all, but you didn't need to sack him. You needed to hurry him. What to me was the unpardonable sin by Ron Roberts in that spot was the idiotic decision to make Eugene Asante a spy in the middle. And the only reason you play a spy is you're worried about a quarterback breaking loose. He's not going to run right there. You're not going to try. I wish he would have tried to run. Then we converge and tackle him almost certainly. And then to rush 2, and I'll make a kind of a facetious point here. To rush 2 there, you were not going to break through. And they did their job. And Milroe had a sandwich, a bowl of soup.
You might as well have rushed none.
Well, that was my punchline. Of course, I'm being completely reductio ad absurdum, Rob, if you took Latin, reducing something to the absurd. you would have been better to put 11 guys back at the goal line and play zone that way.
Yes.
And of course, that would be fascinating to watch, wouldn't it? Milroe can't cross the line. He's got to try to throw a jump ball. So, give Alabama credit, and it was Gravedigger. I guess Danny Moore has already commissioned a painting called Gravedigger, the play call. And what it looked to me like they did is they bunched 3 or 4 of their receivers in the middle of the end zone. Milroe threw to a landmark, that back pylon corner, and his receiver broke on it. And both of them were handsy. I don't have any problem with the no call there, because I saw our guy James grabbing jersey, and I saw Bond pushing off a little bit. But that's passing. It was not worthy of a penalty there. And congratulations to Alabama for a clutch play at the end.
Yeah, that game at the 35-yard line, not at the flag.
Yeah, that corner over there. It's where Michael Johnson caught that pass in the Georgia game in 2002. Auburn had it wrapped up. Same. I hate that corner.
I think he was south end zone. I think he was south. This was north, but same idea.
Yeah. It's just that corner of the end zone. Painful place. Well, look, we get some interesting comments coming in. Could that be Mike Lynn from ELO Wembley? Could the SEC be left out of the college football playoff? And Doug, you wrote some really good stuff. You always do. Earlier in the week about a scenario where the SEC could be left out of the college football playoff. And I will say this, watching the national media narrative, they are so –
there's some fatigue.
The decorum prohibits me really saying what I want to say about them, but I'm just going to say they're whiners. Wendy and Doug Weiner, they hate the SEC. Look,
if
Texas, you can say what you want about Alabama.
They want the SEC left out.
Yeah, you got to give Alabama the respect that they deserve for their championships, and you got to give Auburn and these other schools in the SEC, if they're doing it and they're better than everybody else, Doug, you can't artificially take it away from them.
Let me double down on that. And to my brothers, whether it's LSU, Tennessee, whoever you pull for in the SEC, if you're kind of reveling in wanting Georgia and Alabama both somehow to be left out, be careful what you ask for, because your team will be in that spot in the future. And that will be when we're arguing over why shouldn't a third or even a fourth SEC team be selected. But I'm sorry, if Georgia loses a close one, which is my call, I think Alabama's going to win a close one today, and I'll explain an interesting historical trend why I believe that. And it'll be slightly self-serving, but I think you guys will get the point. But there is an argument. Let's say Alabama wins a close one over Georgia. Georgia's worst only loss, is to this Alabama team. Yeah. And Georgia's coming into this with a resume of trying to three-peat. So who would Oregon's out, Washington is in, we know that. You can argue whether they're really better or more just deserving because they ran the table. But if FSU wins a close one against Louisville, I don't see FSU as better than Georgia or Alabama, not remotely. You guys,
what would the point spread be if Georgia or Alabama played Florida State on a neutral field?
Double digit,
at least 7 points. It'd be about 10 points.
I think it'd be 10-14 in both games. Yeah, and I think Florida State's pretty good. I'm a big Mike Norvell fan. He took Memphis where they'd never been before, to the Cotton Bowl.
I don't wish them harm.
Yeah, but I just don't think they are Alabama and Doug's right. You can say all you want. You want this to happen, you better stick with your brothers in your conference. But the rest of America hates us.
But Rob, I think if Texas smokes Oklahoma State, which I think they are absolutely going to do, Bama is in trouble. I do not think they leapfrog Texas, because they're not going to do. Look, they might let Alabama leapfrog Florida State. They ain't letting them leapfrog Texas,
and they should. I mean, I'm the biggest, probably one of the biggest Alabama fans that appears on this show, and they should. I mean, they lost by 10 points at home, Denny, in a game that was not that close.
Yes,
I know Alabama's a better team now, and Alabama could probably beat Texas, but they lost. So you have to, and I hate that, because I my nightmare 15 times waking up in the middle of the night last night was Florida State beats Louisville in a close game, Texas wins, Bama beats Georgia, SEC is out. And that just sucks.
It'll be a travesty, and it will definitively prove pardon my French, the BS that the committee tries to sell us, that we're picking the 4 best teams. But what they're doing? It is class, and I understand it. I understand how money gets divided, and there's a great quote like, "The answer to all your questions is money." Almost all your questions is money. And so it's a distribution of Power 5 conference power. And yet there have been a few years where they had to hold their nose under a lot of pressure, including from Coach Saban, that they had to hold their nose and put 2 SEC teams in. And every time they've done that, either Alabama or Georgia goes and proves that they were right to have done that.
Let me throw some stats. Let me throw some stats at you real quick. Can you, Frank? Let me throw this at you real quick. Put things in perspective, what all 3 of y'all are making great points. You all missed your careers. You should have been great lawyers. I mean, I'd take any of you to court. I mean, I think you could get somebody off the death penalty. But look, notes about the Pac-12 championship game. I watched it last night, on TV like you did. Oregon versus Washington was the first top 5 matchup between 2 Pac-12 teams in 47 years.
Yep.
Okay. We have these in the SEC on a weekly basis, it seems like. Oregon
sometimes
failed
twice a year.
Yeah.
2011.
Right.
3 times.
And Oregon failed to convert a single third down in the first half. I mean, in Washington, are they a superpower team? I don't think so.
No.
Also, a little reminder from Maury Gaston, December 2nd is also the 34th anniversary of the first time ever at Jordan-Hare Stadium. December 2nd, a pretty powerful day. And I thought December 1st was when Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer came on TV, and I found out it came on later, but it's going to be back on again December 16th. But anyway, so y'all don't think – I agree with this. We don't want – because if it happens once, it'll happen again. And we better hope to God that it doesn't happen. A lot of comments coming in here, and I'm going to throw God. Okay, let me start grabbing these. They're coming in. Holy cow! Okay, we got an echo in the background. I'm not sure where that is coming from, but anyway, Kevin in Memphis. Do y'all think Georgia is better this year on offense than the previous 2 national championship teams? Wow.
No.
Really?
I think them not having Brock is a big problem. He's their best receiver. I just don't think they have the talent on the wideouts, and without him in the tight end spot, they lose something. I don't think their running back play has been as good as it's been the last couple of years. And look, I'll tell you what, man. For a whipping boy that won 2 national championships, boy, Stetson Bennett. I mean, golly, what? Well, he must have had the worst marketing people in the history of football. No, I think Georgia's a step back. But having said that, I'm a contrarian. I think they beat Alabama today. And I will tell you, even if Alabama does beat them, I think Auburn, as sad as this week's been for the Auburn Tigers, and brother, as an LSU guy, I felt your pain every step since that minute. We were texting together. We were, the friend, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. We were right. But I will tell you, I think the fact that Auburn took Alabama to the wire, that if Alabama beats a squeaker against Georgia, I think you're right, Rob. I think the chance is we don't get either one of them in there.
Yeah.
Our who we're pulling most for today is the University of Louisville.
Amen.
That's just the bottom line. I got to give a plug to my buddy Gordon Hodge, a Washington undergrad, Stanford classmate of mine. I'm so happy for Gordon and all the people of Washington. They deserve to be in the playoff. They won the Pac-12. More power to them. So, but focus on today's game. Let's pull for the Cardinals of Louisville. So they just basically take off the table the SEC champion not getting in the playoff.
And there's a third-ranked quarterback that's going to be leading Florida State. They're down to number 3 more than likely. I mean, you haven't heard anything. I don't know what the injury is, but they're going to be probably paying with the number 3. Now, if they win that ball game, I think Florida State does need to go based upon what's happened the last 3 weeks. And look, I saw them. They dismantled LSU. We were lucky to be anywhere close in that game. So I'm not throwing stones at glass houses on Florida State. They win, go undefeated. They need to be in.
Yeah. Doug Dean, let me throw this at you real quick. Go ahead.
Yep.
And I got some comments from Matt Dean, who's out there in Las Vegas. His son's on the staff with Oregon. And we'll get to those after Doug's comments. They're really good stuff that Matt had to say.
What I wanted to, first of all, a minute ago, Duff, I think what Duff was referring to, ironically, is that I pull it off when it mattered most. That will be interesting to see if Alabama beats Georgia, let's say in a close. If they beat Georgia somewhat handily, not that anybody would predict that, but it happens. It can happen. Then I think Alabama is in one way or the other. But if it's a close Alabama win, it could be, the great irony could be that, well, you just barely beat a 6-6 Auburn team, and you'd get no style points for that. And I award you no points. And may God have mercy on your soul. What was that movie, Rob? And but I want to give Dave Compton some interesting trend hope here. I'm fascinated by when you have really close, dramatic Iron Bowls, that the team that the victor survives what I've called a near-death experience. Let's look at 2009 Iron Bowl. Greg McElroy had to go down the field. They may or may not have had one or two illegal pick plays that freed up Julio Jones. But I'm just a bitter Auburn fan.
Best drive in Alabama history.
It was amazing, and give them credit. That Auburn should not have been in that game, but Greg gets it down the field with some clutch throws, and then they didn't settle for a field goal. They knew that you got to put a team away, and that's my big complaint about Hugh Freeze in this Iron Bowl. When you get a kill shot like down at the 5-yard line, have a play call that you get it in the end zone. It's 28-20, game's over, most likely.
If you got a stake on Saban's heart, you better have a big mallet.
But 2009 Iron Bowl. After
I watched that game in New Orleans in Frank's hometown.
After that near-death experience, Alabama 32, Florida 13. Stay with me, guys. 2010, only a year later, that comeback, ridiculous 24-point comeback against the GOAT, Coach Saban. And no offense intended, just facts. In the biggest blown lead by Saban, maybe by Alabama in an Iron Bowl, because let's face it, Alabama usually wins or blows Auburn out in that one. So
good old Lutzy. Good old Lutzy.
After that comeback, Auburn 56 and a Spurrier coach South Carolina 17. So you would the normal way of thinking would be, oh, they won't have anything left after this dramatic game. There's two more. The 2013 Kick 6 game. Putting it mildly, a dramatic near-death experience for both teams. Auburn prevails. Auburn 59, Mizzou 42, and the game wasn't that close. And then 2021.
And
2021, 4 overtime. That really was a near-death experience for Alabama, but they made the plays. All they do is go beat Georgia 41-24. So that's why I like Alabama in a close one this afternoon.
I challenge any team in the country to be Auburn's arch rival and to go play Auburn in Jordan-Hare.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, NFL teams. I mean, that is the hardest place as a rival. That is the hardest place to go play your arch rival.
It is a tough one. Let me say something real quick. Matt Dean just texted me from Las Vegas. He's a coach, and they can say his son's on Dan Lanning's staff. He said, "Sorry, I can't join y'all this morning. My assessment, real quick, from last night: give Washington credit. They were the better team. Proud of Oregon for fighting back and taking the lead in the late third quarter. In Dan Lanning's first year, the Ducks are 21-5. They'll keep getting better." That being said, the overturn of the fumble call to incomplete pass was huge. Oregon gets that call, and all the momentum was on their side. After watching the replay post-game, thought it was a fumble, but that's football. Great environment last night. Still can't believe no more Pac-12 going forward. I mean, it's tough to even think about it. Let me take a quick commercial break. Great stuff, everybody. Dave Tompkins, Doug Dean, Frank Duffy. A lot of people tuning in. Man, I'm getting a ton of comments. I'm trying to get to them. We're kind of going down it's sort of like going down by topics, but a lot of comments and people got a lot of questions, and we're going to get to them right after this quick commercial break from a couple of our sponsors.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
Curve everything else. Win, 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 win. These ops ain't lit. Mommy. Win, 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 win.
Sidelines band there playing a little bit of banjo and fiddle. That's Dave Tompkins on the fiddle, Doug Dean on the bass, and Frank Duffy on the snare drums. And Aubrey was a snare drummer in the Collierville Middle School band. And to this day, she goes, quit making fun of the band. I'm like, look, I'm not. It's the caregiver shoes and those funny looking hats. But at the same time, a lot of the people that were in the band are the people that are the lead singers for The Who and Led Zeppelin and, you know, the Animals and all. So I just get the biggest kick out of that. Is some great music from the Sidelines band, whoever that is. But I love that in and out music. But I want to say something too. RumbleBoxingGym.com. Check them out on the website at sidelines.live. Their first location, and Camp Lee, opened it up several months ago, and it was back in the spring. And they're at 1835 Union Avenue in Midtown Memphis on the corner of Union and McLean. Talk about a great workout. You go in there and the sessions are 45 minutes. It's 15 3-minute sessions that you do in a class with 48 other people. It's got wild lighting and all. You're doing jumping jacks, star jacks, dips, planks, push-ups, burpees, dumbbell work. Then you hit the bags that weigh 250 pounds that hang from the ceiling. They look like Hershey's Kisses. And it is an incredibly intense competitive environment. I absolutely love going there to work out. All the gear that you need, you can buy it there. RumbleBoxingGym.com. Check them out on our website. Proud to have them as a sponsor. So
hey, as a good Irish Catholic, we all have to know about boxing in our lineage. If you want to know how long 3 minutes is, do a boxing workout.
Yes,
that's how you know how long 3 minutes
class at West Point, and that was a 3-round bout. I mean, that's a half marathon.
Yes, sir.
All right, Doug Dean, let's get to it. You've got some great points to make. And
first of all, Duff, fellow Irish Catholic, you left out the other part of the lineage. There's boxing and there's drinking. And where there's 4 Catholics, there's always a 5th, Duff.
Yeah, I love it. I haven't heard that one. I love it.
Anyway, in moderation, I might add.
Yes,
in moderation.
Right.
Unlike Duff on game day in the loveliest village.
Hey, when you take a selfie with Tommy Tuberville and you're holding a 5th of whiskey and the senator still takes his picture with you, that's a cry for help.
Woodford Reserve, my friend.
Woodford Reserve.
That is Senator Tuberville to you, Duff.
Right.
Yeah. Get it. And
anyway, on Sidelines, we give credit to where credit's due. And there have been plenty of basketball seasons when the Carolina Duke game, whether it's the Cameron Indoor or the Dean Dome, was essentially the de facto national championship, even before March Madness. This year, the national championship takes place, a handful of hours from now, a little south of where Rob is at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Right.
Doug, jump in here. I know you said you've got a couple of takes you want to make on the Alabama-Georgia game. You're freezing up a little bit. I don't know. It's like maybe the Minders from Beijing may be going at us again. We're not talking enough about the Big Ten.
So I'm just going to call you Dave going forward. I apologize, Dave, for butchering your last name. So I look at if obviously Kirby Smart scouted the Iron Bowl and then some, and Hugh Freeze might have given him offensively, especially a couple of keys to consider. I don't think he would try to dust off that real super heavy rushing attack that Freeze went with. But if he does, and this will sound controversial maybe to people who say woof woof, but I don't think Georgia, just by a little bit, I don't think Georgia brings the rushing game to try to deploy that heavily against Alabama that Auburn had.
I agree.
I think Auburn has a little bit better stable of backs. In late season, they really except for that ridiculous New Mexico State game. By the way, they lost to Liberty. Liberty now, 13-0?
Yeah.
Amazing.
They don't have a Jaquez. They don't have a Jaquez this year.
Liberty is living off of Hugh Freeze's recruits. Isn't this how you do this?
There we go. I knew I was waiting for that one.
Hey, when I say that, I normally say Les Miles, but
yeah, it's their game.
It's war chest.
Yeah. Anyway, so here's the interesting intrigue for me a little bit in this afternoon's game, which I can't wait for. Going to be doing Gordon Ramsay's beef short ribs braised.
Woo!
Rob, they stay in the oven for 3 or 4 hours to break that down. It's going to be really delicious. But Georgia rushing. Georgia is 29th rushing, 185 yards a game. Alabama's 44th, 177. But I think if I'm Alabama, if you stipulate one stat post-game, that if you get this, will you win? If Milroe rushes for 100 plus, I know that sounds like a lot. Alabama wins this game. Milroe needs to be the fourth running back. He can be, and has been, he can be the difference in that gap between how Auburn ran the ball. And I think if you're Alabama, even though in passing you're 57th, 231 yards a game, Georgia's 8th in passing. If I'm Alabama, because of the defense you've got, I want Georgia to throw the ball more, because you're going to have an opportunity, just like they did against LSU, to disrupt and possibly cause a back-breaking turnover.
Well, if Kirby's observant, he saw two teams that could have beat Alabama if we would have spied, us and y'all. We both could have beat Alabama. But y'all spied at the wrong time. And as we were texting back,
we couldn't contain that guy.
That's right, and we said that, and one time we just said it, and Alabama did bring up. Auburn brought up the spy and stopped Milroe behind the line of scrimmage. Had they done that most of the night, had LSU done that in the second half of the game with Alabama when we had a 7-point lead in the third quarter, you might not be talking about Alabama making their way into the playoff. So Georgia, the one thing about Kirby is he's not dumb. He's a very observant and smart coach. I absolutely will see him spying on Jalen Milroe most of this game. You watch.
You can't build a program around it. You can't even build a season around it. We've seen time and time again, whether it's Lamar Jackson, Randall Cunningham, Michael Vick, Vince Young, in a one-game scenario, if you got a quarterback that can beat you with his legs,
you can win the game. Yeah.
You can win the game.
That's right. Look at Vince Young back in the national championship game. He's the poster child. Look what he did in that game with his leg.
Both these teams are solid on rushing defense. Georgia 26 with 117 a game. Bama 32nd with 128. Both have been a lot better than that in recent years. But I don't think that one's a huge edge. So I think if I'm Alabama, especially. If I'm Georgia, I want to mitigate risk and not throw quite as much as I have been against less talented defenses. If Georgia tries to throw it 30, 35 plus times, advantage Alabama, because I think Alabama's that good defensively.
Alabama, Kevin Steele. I mean, he's been the sauce that's made this really work this year, because he is an alpha male. The kind of guy that football players respond to. Pete Golding, no, he's not. He's not that guy. I'm not going to get into it, but he was not getting the results. But, and I like how Doug and Dave and all, we're Auburn, we're Alabama, we're LSU. We got all these different schools, but you show respect where it's due. And I'm going to tell you something. There was a little bit of pushing there at the end of the Iron Bowl, but there wasn't anything ugly. There's just respect. I like Dan Bongino's comments, being in the stands there, just the way Southerners, he goes, and someone told me one time they were at a game, Frank, you could relate to this. They were at a game at the Coliseum, like a Southern Cal Washington game one time. I said, man, these people get over it by the time they get back to their, truck. I could say this. We're not. I remember after kick 6, it took one of my best friends 43 days, 10 hours, 9 minutes, and 6 seconds before he called up and said, good, congratulations.
I'll tell you right, I'm still not over the national championship against Alabama in the Superdome. I'll tell you right now, I'll never be over that game.
Yeah, I was there. I witnessed that bad boy. That was one of the best nights of my life.
Hey, look, I was in the Superdome for every one of the national championships. The 3 we won, and the 1 we lost. And I will tell you, I can't remember squat about the three we won. Something. I can tell you almost every play of that freaking one we lost against Alabama when it should have been Oklahoma State. We win by 40 points, and I can still feel my seat and the angst sitting in that nasty upper deck seat watching Alabama. And I knew it on the first play of the game, Rob. It still sticks with me.
Kirby Smart had that team so ready.
Yeah, well, not only on the defense, but on the offense. We kicked off to Alabama, went in the end zone for a touchback. The very first play, Les Miles and our defense was up on a line of scrimmage. What's his name? McCarron did a fake handoff, waggled out, hit the tight end for 15 yards. I told my wife, I said, we are effed bigger than Dallas. I said, because our idiot coach is going to coach this like this. It's the 7th quarter of that first game in Tuscaloosa. Nick Saban is totally going to coach this like it's a national championship game, and damned if it didn't happen. Yeah, and I can remember that game like it was yesterday.
I was there too, and obviously I was a happy guy that night while you were a really pissed off guy. But yes, it was that game was over after the first play. I remember that play so well.
Yeah,
Duff, it was not a subtle point that you were making. You need to adjust your medication. It's going to be all right, man.
And here's the crazy thing. And here's the crazy thing. You Auburn guys will love this. I was equally as livid on Saturday night. I texted y'all. I said, dude, words cannot describe. I am so sorry for you, my Auburn friends. And what was the last word I said? Good night.
Yeah,
I was done. I couldn't say anything more. I was right there with y'all.
Yeah, you talk about
a couple of things.
You talk about fan rancor. Does that mean that means hate, doesn't it, Rob? Rancor,
anger. Hey, let me say a couple of.
Before you do, real quick. Okay, I just wanted the angriest I've seen a fan in Jordan-Hare Stadium following an Iron Bowl was not an Auburn or Alabama at each other. It was the 1997 improbable finish Iron Bowl in which Bruce Arians, a genius coach who's won a Super Bowl or two, called an unimaginable, an unthinkable swing pass to Ed Sissom. Boom, you get hit. Martavius Houston and I forgot who recovered. Quentin Reese recovered it, and they get in position to kick the winning field goal. And as we were leaving the stadium, there were good Bama fans angrier than hell. Not at Auburn. They wanted to kill Mike DuBose for allowing that call on third down. I kid you not.
What happened to Mike DuBose?
Yeah.
Looking ahead to next year, today's game in New Orleans, Tulane, SMU. Whoever's thinks they're going to be number 5 in the seeding will be okay. Look out for this game because whoever wins between the Green Wave and the Mustangs, I mean, they're going to be some trouble in a 12-team format, I believe.
I think all the stuff, the angst that we're talking about, who gets in, who doesn't, all of that goes away, thankfully, next year. I am so happy for the 12-team playoff. Let's settle it on the field. We're not going to have these issues. And look, if you're big and bad and you can make a 3-game run, go ahead, girl. Go with yourself.
You're smart. You think that we won't be debating the 13th best team, Duff?
Well, we might. but I will tell you it will be with a lot less vigor and venom than we are doing it now.
This is what I want to bring this up. All right, last night, Washington, at the end of the game, they talked about some stats. I was taking a lot of notes. They had 13 fifth-year seniors and 13 sixth-year seniors. That is a powerful statistic, okay? And eight of Washington's last 9 wins, 7 of their 8 Pac-12 wins were by single digits. When you win close games, it pulls you together because everybody's listening to one another. You can talk to yourself you can listen to yourself all day, a lot of crazy thoughts. Talk to yourself. Washington, that Michael Penix kid, I thought he was the better quarterback last night, but those were 2 fierce warriors. They both trained together with the same quarterback coach. That was a fun one to watch. Let me say something here about Matt Cain, a viewer, obviously an FSU fan. Brock Glenn is no slouch. That kid that's their 13 quarterback. He's from Covington, Tennessee, just north of Memphis in Tipton County. He is a pretty good quarterback. There's one thing Mike Norvell can do. He can get inside of a quarterback's head and make him think he's tougher than Superman. Do y'all think, and I'm going to throw this at y'all, do you think it should be held against you in the rankings? Well, they're not the same team without their first, second, or third guy. What about Alabama in 2017? What if they would have said, well, without Jalen Hurts, we can't let them play in that national championship game? You know what? You go with who you got.
Damn right. If you earned it and the guy's not there, the other guys will pick up the slack. Absolutely.
Yeah, and
you do not penalize the team for somebody going down.
Yeah, I like what Matt Cain is saying, because Florida State, look, I've been a Florida State fan since March of '76. I've always liked them because that day I went to Tallahassee with my dad when they hired Bobby Bowden. I still remember that during spring break. And that guy told my dad, he goes, we just hired us a coach from West Virginia. They ran him out of town. They hung him in effigy. He's going to build us a great program. We started looking around here and said, man, we got athletes all around the state, but we're going to play a schedule like nobody's ever seen, anytime, anywhere, any place. And they've still got the graveyard of all the turf from those road games that they won. Yeah. So I love it. Doug Dean, make a point right now. And Franz Beard, Franz has put out some I'm going to get to this, but Franz has, tonight, I'm trying to see here what he just said, but he's got his picks. Yeah, he's got Louisville over FSU. You like that?
I honestly, I hadn't looked at any key injuries. We know about FSU's key injury that might impact voting tomorrow if FSU prevails. Where's the game played? Neutral site, I assume.
This is Charlotte. Yeah, Charlotte. And I lived in Louisville for a while, and I can tell you the entire city of Louisville is in Charlotte right now.
Yeah, and so I think after that bitter defeat Florida State pulled off a year ago, that's on the minds of Louisville. They'd love to be the spoiler here. I think I still pick Florida State because I have that much respect for Norvell, but I don't think he's going to get the style points of a 20-plus point win. So I think if I'm a Florida State fan, I'm real nervous about how things may go today and tomorrow.
I think Florida State wins this ball game. I watched them up close and personal in Orlando. They got my respect. I think they win the ball game. I think it's going to be a great storyline if a third-string quarterback comes in and wins this ball game for a championship. And look, you saw the kid when he came in against Florida. I watched that ball game. He was as cool as the other side of the pillow when he came in. There was no happy feet. His pupils were nicely dilated. They were not expanding. So I think Florida State wins this. I will tell you, though, the boys in the desert don't make mistakes. This line has gone down to 1. So they think that the third-string quarterback, that kid from Carolina, is going to come in and play in this ball game. So if Florida State wins the ball game and runs the table, absolutely they're in. Of course, if they lose, all bets are off. They're done. They're out of it just because of the weakness of the ACC.
Well, Florida State, I like this, I see this is the It Just Means More podcast. No, we are fair.
I'm just talking about Florida State. I think Florida State gets in over Alabama.
I agree. I'm just saying about the comment. No, listen, I like this guy, Matt Cain. I believe Florida State wins today. I do not think Louisville will beat them. And I'm not saying that to curry favor with anybody. I said it last year. Johnny Ballpark Franks is on the show with us a lot. He's a Florida State grad, knew Bobby Bowden very well. He's from Huntsville and really knows football. And guys, I think Mike Norvell is so underrated as a coach. Now, that doesn't mean they can't lose today, but I also think Dave, you're right. Living in Memphis, that Louisville-Memphis rivalry in basketball, Louisville would bring 15 or 20 busloads of fans down to the Forum or the Coliseum to play Memphis. I'm telling you that Memphis UAB deal because of Gene Bartow, those are rivalries that a lot of people kind of don't know as much about. But you're right about Louisville. Nobody
really understands a fan base like Louisville. Yep. I mean, that is the most passionate fan base. Lexington as well, but Louisville is. I mean, I grew up in Birmingham, and I arrived in Louisville in 2007. I'm like, geez, Louise. I mean, these people are just maniacs about their team.
Fanatics. They are fanatics, Dave. I mean, and Birmingham, I'm going to tell you something. Birmingham's not as big as Memphis, but my God, what they're doing, Scarbinksy can't be on. He's covering high school playoffs and all right now. But what is going on in Birmingham and Louisville? Memphis needs to take a cue from what they've done. I mean, Doug, you're more in touch with that right now. You live there, you work there. Dave, you're from there, but I spent a lot of time in Birmingham, and it is a city that per capita, I think it might be the most charitably inclined giving city in America. I'm just looking at the Monday Morning Birmingham Quarterback Club, what they do, and it's a coachsafely.org and all. That is kind of ground zero for college football, Doug. Is it fair to say that?
Yeah, we really don't want you to market Birmingham. We're happy with our roads that you can actually travel.
You get to the airport from anywhere in 15 minutes.
No, I love visiting the bigger cities. It would be fun, Rob, if Auburn does go to the Liberty Bowl. I know that Liberty Bowl wants Auburn. It sounds funny to say they really want a 6-6 team, but there was some excitement delivered, and Auburn fans hadn't been to a bowl in a couple of years, so I think they'd travel. But we got to have a party if we do end up in Memphis. Can I talk fractions, mathematical fractions for a second, Rob?
Absolutely.
It's relevant. I'll make it relevant.
On Saturday.
My favorite tweet, and there's a point to this about the potential balance of power struggle between the top tier and the SEC going forward. And y'all can kind of fill in the blanks yourself on what that might look like. What we know is that nothing fails like success. And it is very difficult for companies, organizations to get to the mountaintop and sustain it. You can sustain it. To Alabama's enormous credit and Coach Saban's, they have sustained it a long time, and they're still doing that. I mean, they're in position to do it again. So is Georgia lately. But it's hard to find a football program in the modern era that can sustain something 15, 20 years. It's just too much disruption. So the point being, look, the fraction, my favorite tweet last night was from 5-star receiver Perry Thompson, 6'3", 202. It was about time to get some big guys. He was flipped to Auburn, and he's become a recruiter. His tweet simply said 4/5, and I knew exactly what he meant. Yesterday, the bombshell breaking news of flip of 5-star wide receiver Cam Coleman from Texas A&M to Auburn completes a what will soon be, we think, a Fab Five, or shall we call it a Freeze Five, Duff, of wide receivers. Perry Thompson, a 5-star, Cam Coleman, 5-star, Bryce Kane, a 4-star, Malcolm Simmons, 4-star, and keep an eye on Bama commitment Ryan Williams, who's a 2025 kid, but there's word he's considering reclassifying to 24. And if he did, that would possibly be a signal that he's about to flip to Auburn. Of course, never bet against Alabama on these big-time players. But the point is, if you're trying to predict balance of power and which teams are in the top quartile, top 5 or 6, and can contend, I think Auburn is more of a buy right now based on recruiting than they are a sell. Do you agree, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, total buy. I mean, Hugh Freeze can coach, and he can definitely recruit, and he knows how to beat Alabama. And just look at Coach Saban's, arguably his best friend, Bill Belichick, and what's happened to the Patriots. I mean, dynasties do fall. It's a human condition, if you will. So I don't want to see it happen. I remember, Coach Bryant passed away in January of '83, and we had to wait a long, long, long time. We had a little bit of love during the Stallings era, but we had to wait all the way until 2006 for Saban to arrive.
Yeah, and it's you're right. We're going to take.
Hang on a second. It was actually January of 2007. Just want to let you know. I can tell you exactly what day it was.
Okay, yes, you have a visceral memory of it.
Yeah.
Traumatic.
Ryan Williams is from Saraland, and you know where Saraland is, right?
Right above Mobile.
South of Satsuma. You know where Satsuma is?
Below Saraland.
East of 8 Mile, north of Chickasaw. But the point is, it's inland from Mobile, and you better recruit Mobile well if you're going to compete in this state.
Yeah, it is. We're going to take a quick break and be right back because Saraland is a superpower. And Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover, a regular guest on this show, said it months ago. He said, I believe in the class of 2025, Ryan Williams will be ranked as the #1 player in America in high school. He may reclassify. Now, his dad went to Auburn, left, but I know this for the record. The father loves Auburn and says Auburn saved me from myself. I'll just leave it at that. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break from a couple of our sponsors. Another hour to go on Sidelines. Man, I like this FSU banter in here. This guy,
I know.
Matt Cain, man. Holy shit.
Coming after
We'll be right back. Go no. T. Osceola and Renegade. We'll be right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Browne back here. We got the missing man formation going on here.
Okay.
Him coming back in here. But look, the Florida State deal with your quarterback, Jordan Travis is a hell of a quarterback. He's injured. And then, you had his backup. Then now you're talking about Brock Glenn from Memphis, I think, but he played in Covington, is what I believe. But I don't know. I don't know how good he is. We'll find out. But Mike Norvell, he is a master quarterback developer. Okay. So I'm going to throw this one here. Matt Cain, Washington will get boat raced in the CFP. We'll see about that. Let me get down here. Wow.
It looked pretty good last night.
Yeah. But here's something here from, I wish neither of those teams in the SEC gets in, but I've got to go the lesser of the two evils. Go Georgia Puppies. Would rather watch paint dry than watch that freak show in Atlanta. Holy shnikes, man. We're getting some. Wow. It's a rough crowd. It's a rough crowd. Here's Franz Beard in Gainesville, but GatorBaitMedia.com. He's on the show every Monday. By the way, just a plug for him. He's putting out some of the best content every day about the Gators, the SEC, and the big picture of college football. Over 50 years experience. He's just one of the best writers in America. Louisville over FSU. Okie State over Texas in a monumental upset, he said. Michigan wins. Alabama over Georgia. Wow.
Franz is calling for anarchy.
Always the smartest guy on the show.
He's calling for anarchy. That's anarchy.
Hold on. Would that put Alabama and Georgia both in the playoff?
I think that would.
Damn.
Yeah, that's a
chaos.
That is chaos. Media. By the way, did any of y'all see the story yesterday about a Texas Longhorn cow was found butchered in the front of a fraternity house in Stillwater, Oklahoma? I mean, look, let me tell you something. As a lifelong sportsman who hunts and fishes, I'll just tell you, I have respect for what I kill. I eat what I kill. Yeah. I always told my kids, if you shoot a coot or a pigeon, you're eating it. You know, you don't just kill. I hope they catch those creeps that did this and hang them by their testicles.
From what I heard, it was one fraternity, a guy whose parents or grandparents had a farm. Apparently, the Longhorn was dead on the farm. He was tasked to go remove it, and when he did, he brought it to the rival fraternity, and they wrote some graffiti on it against the other. It was the farm frat against the Alpha Grab a Hose, the Alpha Grab a Rose, and they're going back and forth. It's not, I don't think, anything against Texas. I think it was more an internal thing. But the police have been called, and there is an active investigation going on right now.
Yeah, because the bottom line is, Doug, you know this. You and I spend a lot of time outdoors hunting. I can tell you in the AKC Hunting Retriever Club events and field trials, we use real ducks and pheasants, live ones. When a dog brings one back after it's been shot, if you throw it on the ground after your dog brings it back, that you'll get a 0. There are 4 things: PSMT, persistence, style, markability, and trainability. You get a 0. You could drive all the way across the country, or your trainer could, to Oregon for the National Field Championship, and you do that, you're in big trouble. I'm just going to throw that out there, but
most
Doug,
of us,
you know, in fact,
most of us hunters are animal lovers. Most of us hunters are animal lovers.
Nobody does more for the environment than hunters and fishermen. Yeah.
In a related incident, does the Harvey calling on the Paul Feinbaum show to talk about the trees, does that rank as the all-time Darwin Achievement Award?
Yes. That I still remember that call, Doug Dean. I'm gonna start calling
turning
Doug
yourself
Father
in.
Doug.
Al from Dadeville will live in infamy. Remember?
Oh
that?
my God! Yeah,
Al from Dadeville. And
by the way,
he was foolishly proud of it.
Yes.
By the way, Harvey will be watching today's SEC championship game from a warm seat.
Well, he's doing the dirt nap. He died.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Harvey's seat has been a warm one for a while.
Yeah, and I think they had to get 6 trustees from Atmore Prison to throw him in the ground in a paper box.
He was going to be up close. He had a date with a broomstick.
Yeah.
I'm in a glass house. I would be foolish to suggest Auburn doesn't have a crazy or two on our side. There's a few.
And like all Iron Bowl nutcases, he did not graduate from Alabama.
That's right.
Yeah.
And by the way,
David,
I was going to say we have crazy ones too, Doug.
You think?
Only you can smell the bourbon as they're coming around the corner.
Yeah, she'll be coming around the corner when she comes. But again, we'll have to let the sidelines bands do our music for us. I defer to them. Hey, to all 3 of y'all, the combined IQ of the 3 of y'all is probably about a 483. Very smart guys.
That's a little low there, but
yeah, okay, a little low. Okay, but the one thing.
Speaking of fraction math.
I'm at 63.
Hey, by the way, when my kids started having that fractional division in math and stuff, I was like, "What are you doing?" Of course, my dad will always tell you I had to have calculus to get a degree in architecture. Never once ever have I used calculus to do anything. But the governor wouldn't sign my diploma, nor would the president at Auburn until I passed it. But I want to throw this.
Hey, Dave went to West Point. He's got a 460 all his freaking own.
Yeah, well,
I was going to say Duff and I are a little bit of a drag on Dave's IQ.
I
Well, Oklahoma State, it does have it. It certainly, I'm getting a lot of stuff now on the text about that deal. Whatever it was, what I don't understand is this. And I mean, I live in Memphis, but I'm at the cherry farm all the time. There's one herd of cattle in the area. Everything else is a rice field, cotton, beans, milo, millet, corn. There's one cattle farm. And what's the saying? If the cows are standing, it's going to rain. If they're laying down, it's not going to rain. It's a pretty accurate statement there on Highway 64 at Farmer Brown's farm right before you get to Crowley's Ridge. And so something interesting to watch.
That's one of the little pro tip to our deer hunters who are tuned in. They know this. One of the little tricks that I found to be helpful on your drive down these country roads, like Highway 5, I take from Woodstock to Marion, Alabama, and then from there, County Road 45 from Marion to Marion Junction, where our club is on the Cahaba River. But you watch these cattle pastures, and on your way down, if those cattle are standing and feeding, so are the deer going to be almost always. But if they're laid up, bedded down, you can just go ahead and have a beer. Don't hunt that afternoon and wait till the next day.
Yeah,
well,
and Rob,
Rob, the only livestock report I can give you is not cattle; it's horses, and they're in Hot Springs. That's the only livestock report I can give.
Now look, MJ and everybody at the cherry farm, everybody is getting on their Sunday best to go over there to Oaklawn and see your horse run. And you said something, now it might be
here's the crazy
in Alabama
thing.
January.
Well, here's the crazy thing. So my horse is running. My filly's running her very first second race at Oaklawn on opening day. How exciting.
That's
the
cool.
bad thing is Rhonda has an event in New Orleans on Friday night. So I am going to be watching my little girl, who I saw when she was 4 days old in a stall in Arkansas. We're Arkansas bred. By the way, I almost got blown away when Ron Moquette, our trainer, sent out, he goes, I got her in a $115,000 purse race. I was like, what? They're printing money over there in Arkansas. Well, the reason we had her drop in Arkansas was for those Arkansas purses, right? The Arkansas bred races. So unfortunately, you guys might be in Oaklawn. I'm going to be in New Orleans at an event, but whenever we are free, the first chance, I'm driving to Hot Springs. I am going to have dinner at the cherry farm. I am going to try and bring a statue of Robert E. Lee for y'all if I can get it from my New Orleans Monument group, preserving the Confederate, statuary. And I will be there.
Museum.
That's right.
Guys, I got to declare, I'm sure without dispute from any of you, that Frank Duffy is the most interesting man in the world.
He is.
Him and Fran's beard together.
I mean,
him and Fran's beard.
I'm going to tell people that I'm close. Can I call you a close friend now? I'm close friends with, it's my honor to be your friend. I'm close friends with a guy who's a trained falconer who owns a thoroughbred or two, and they don't have to know that it's a up and comer.
Makes the best gumbo and jambalaya in the world.
Seriously, he's about to start an adventure with a helmet air conditioning product that's going to explode on the market.
$500 million valuation.
Frank Duffy once had an awkward moment just to see what it felt like.
Yeah, I'll tell you what it was. It was the Superdome, January 2012. That was my awkward moment.
Let me throw one at you.
The game that preceded that, and Brian Denny, was the game of the century. The biggest sporting event of our lifetime is next May in Louisville, the 150th running of the Kentucky Derby.
Hey, we will do the show there live from the Kentucky Derby. If you can get us set up, man, we will do this right. We're going to build us a studio, and I've got Barnwood. Brenda's got my SEC map in there, but absolutely be honored to go to the Kentucky Derby because that is tradition on steroids.
I'm going
to here's to the day before is the Kentucky Oaks, which is just as special. The day for the ladies. And here's to Frank Duffy's horse running in the Oaks.
And by the way, we all got a shot. They all turn 3 years old in exactly 30 days from now. And it's an egalitarian business. We all got a shot. We all don't have good shots, but we all got a shot. If they're 3-year-olds and they're Philly, you got a shot.
And you have a pathway to the Oaks. Your horse has a pathway to the Oaks.
I do. That's exactly right.
Guys, did y'all see, which just, you got to tip your hat to Georgia fans, Kirby Smart and whatever they're doing, but that Carson Beck is, and we're not talking Stetson Bennett, who's got limited NFL prospects. Beck is thinking about returning next year, passing on the draft for possibly 7-figure NIL. What good grief! If Georgia wins today,
there's a monster here. I'm telling you.
Are we going to be talking 4, Pete?
Why wouldn't we be? I mean, look, there's a monster brewing east of here.
I'll tell you something about NIL. Just in talking in private discussions, just what I see going on is that the free market's working through this, but there are cases where people are paid to leave one company and go to another. But you're going to have enough of those cases where the people get that money to go over there and it doesn't work out. It's a disaster. That's how this NIL stuff will be fixed. But as much as I'm not a fan of it, you got to deal with it right now. Yeah. But you better ask the kids on the front end, if you're coming just for your money and you don't really want to be here, you're going to end up like Texas A&M, because that's what I think happened to them. And they should have known better.
And Rob, you know what the day is going to be? I don't know when the day is going to be, but I can tell you what the linchpin is going to be. When a college football player pulls a Petrino, when Max Johnson leaves LSU to go to Texas A&M and then starts knocking on the door in Baton Rouge to come back, that's when the whole damn shit show, pardon my French, is over.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what I mean by it. A&M would be better with a populist movement, a collective of a lot of fans versus a small group of people in a room just bench pressing their wallets to each other. You know, we stopped by Bucky's Thursday night at about 7:30, the one in Leeds, right outside Birmingham.
Yep.
And Birmingham. Yeah, and we stopped there, and Audrey and I did, and they've got, I actually tried the chopped brisket. Now, it's not as good as MJ's or Audrey's cousin Mark Ham, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report, and we've got Roman Harper was up there for the Tennessee-Georgia game, came to Mark's tent and hung out after he was on the show with us. He is a brisket connoisseur, and Roman he's just one of the best guys on there because he will tell you the truth. You know, he'll say game plan was crap. He'll tell it like it is. Cole Kubelik's a good one. Takeo 22, he's a good one. Love to have them on the show because you ask them a question, you get football knowledge. And Chris Doring absolutely love Chris Doring. You know, he and Buddy Martin.
You can have Danny Cannell.
Yeah, Buddy Martin and Franz Beard and all the Gator folks down there, Ben Troop, Allie Peak Wilbur, Brendan Martin will tell you point blank, Chris Doring's the reason they love college football. I mean, Doring's got a touchdown. Doring's got a touchdown. I mean, I love that.
He's been on with us numerous times. I've been on 2 shows.
I learned more from Coach Philip Lawley last week about football in the hour that he was on the show than I've learned in 25
and he
years.
Was going to be on this morning, and right 15 minutes before he came on, he takes care of his mother. He is just exactly what you're supposed to be as a son, as a father. I love that guy. He's going to be on next week. Yeah.
And Dave, I met Coach Lawley when we went over to Doug's house for the LSU Auburn game last year. And by the way, Doug's no slouch on cooking meat either. That roast that we had, that was incredible, right? That tenderloin.
That was incredible.
The tenderloin was incredible. But here's the thing. So we went out that night to go over to the country club, right near where you guys are. And then we went to the bar, and then we walked back where the water was, where they had like a little band playing. There was Coach Lawley out there with his beautiful girlfriend, and we were sitting there just having just the best conversation. Y'all remember that when we were out there? Yeah. And Coach Lawley had us so geared up, I was ready to go take out 3 of the guys that were at the bar because he's telling us, now look at here. Here's how, as an offensive lineman, you got to push. And look, if your ass ain't underneath you, son, you're going to get your helmet handed to you. I was like, Coach, where am I going? Let's go. So he did the exact thing. He left.
Was that Vestavia Country Club?
No, it was at Stillwater.
That was at Lake Martin.
It was
it was a Lake Martin.
One of the more modest. It's not Wicker Point. If you've seen that, Dave, on Lake Martin, it's going to be insanely beautiful and pricey. But Philip Lally,
Crenshaw Core development. Yeah, I can't wait to play there.
Well, my son-in-law he's going to be a neurosurgeon at DCH in T-Town. And how serendipitous is he married my Bama daughter, Allison. So he'll have an immediate tour guide for that city. And Nick has his eye on a membership at Wicker Point because we've taught him about the glories of Lake Martin. So I'm just biding my time, Dave, for him to have a membership and see what the guest rules look like.
Doug's face should be on the father-in-law Mount Rushmore of America.
my best friend is an Auburn grad, Miles Cunningham, and he has a place at Lake Martin. So I'll have to come visit.
Hey, I want to add a small chapter or just a footnote to this whole mantra branding of it just means more in the SEC. You guys are going to love this, especially Dave. Late game in the Iron Bowl. None of us like to see it because over the years, it's always a physical game, thus the name Iron that Suge Jordan gave it because of not really the iron ore in Birmingham, but that it's like iron clashing when those two teams play normally. A finesse sort of crept in with Lane Kiffin a few years, but still physical. But late game, not once, but twice, this melee breaks out. There's no point in saying who started it when both teams participated in the melee. But as far as my eyes saw, not once, but both of those squabbles, a referee gets taken down, undercut, and he's lying prone on the ground in a pileup. And yet these referees understood, you by God better not eject an Alabama player in this second half because they would miss the first half in Georgia. And it just means more. And frankly, I don't have a big problem with that because the title game is too important to have a frivolous kind of meaningless little pushing take someone out of a big championship game.
I'm going to think about it more between now and next week. But I said on last week's show that the Iron Bowl and the Army-Navy game are similar in that it's so personal. Yeah. It's personal for different reasons, and I'll think about that and talk about it on the next week. But yeah, the Iron Bowl is so personal.
It is,
particularly if you're a child of Alabama. I mean, just from the time you can talk. I mean, you have to pick a side, and normally you're told what side you have to pick, and that's it for the rest of your life. You're on that side.
Yeah, and you really could feel that, and to people that didn't suffer. I had a unique childhood, not pleasant in this respect, from I think roughly third grade to almost all the way through John Carroll High School. I did not know what it felt like as an Auburn fan to beat Alabama. It was 9 straight. So I completely understood following that 82 Bo over the top game in which Auburn had no business winning it. We only had like 120 yards of total offense. But Coach Dye in the locker room said, I'm going to go back out there and thank our people. And I mean, it sounded silly to someone who's not in the middle of the rivalry. I completely understood why he wasn't doing it to taunt the opponent. He just understood how much that game meant for Auburn people to finally be able to hold their head high.
Somewhere I have a can of beer. It was a can, no kidding, of Billy beer from 1982. I got so excited, I forgot to open it, and I saved it. But what I remember the following year, the 1983 Iron Bowl, in the fourth quarter, raining so hard you couldn't see across the field, and all of a sudden we hear the air raid sirens are going off. Ladies and gentlemen, a tornado warning has been issued for Jefferson County. Take cover, blah, blah, blah. So I'll never forget, it's raining so hard you couldn't see across the field, and Walter Lewis threw a pass. It was intercepted by Auburn defensive back Vic Beasley out of Adairsville, Georgia, who formerly had been a wide receiver, but he had one eye was off balance. They fixed it on depth perception. He intercepted the ball. After the game, back, Doug, the days when it was at Legion Field and Dave, by the Tide and Tiger liquor store, we were taking the bus back to the Sheraton by the medical center. Yeah. And we're getting on the bus, And this old fella with his United States Marine Corps satin jacket, World War II, had Okinawa campaign on there. He had it on. He's sitting there next to me, and he said, well, the way I look at it, if the Lord wants to take me, it's all right, because we just whipped Alabama. And I've been through a lot, but beating Alabama, I'm all right with it. And I said, well, we're okay. And he goes, I know we are, but I was prepared.
And
he had a speech prepared.
We apologies to Georgia fans, Alabama fans at least are getting to hear their team talked about when we're talking Iron Bowl. But that same 83 game, bro, you were watching TV in Birmingham. God bless Mary Browne, weather person at the local channel. She broke in the middle of Bo's long run in which Keith Jackson said, in your face. And Mary Browne was shown the door for breaking in on her. She was fired. She was fired over an Iron Bowl.
When I was a TV reporter for Channel 3, WRBL News 3 on your side on 13th Street in Columbus, Georgia, February of 1990, about 5:15 that morning, I thought a train had gone off the tracks and was coming toward me. It was a tornado that came through town. I got the call about a minute later, Rob, let's deploy. And so we're covering the tornadoes and going up. I mean, it was insane. So about all day long, we had tornado outbreak in the Columbus, in the valley, the Chattahoochee Valley. I'll never forget our weather girl. I'm not going to name her. She was nice. She was a Georgia grad from their School of Journalism. She left at 12:30 to go get her hair done. I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, are you serious? I worked about 19 hours that day, and I'm interviewing somebody where a tornado came through, and all these pine trees had been decapitated. It smelled like they had done an aerial drop of 5,000 tons of pine saw. And the guy, the old dude goes, well, I was in there in the living room in my trailer, and I'm not sitting there. And he goes, and I just heard something, and I looked out there, and I just thank God we were alive. And I'm like, it was scary. This is no cell phones. They're on the radio going, Rob, where are you? And I told them, they said, okay, 5 miles in front of you, you're going into another tornado. And like, it was the craziest thing I ever remember. But back to football.
Well, one thing.
Back to the Iron Bowl. I think we'll credit Gene Chizik for this. When the tornado hit Tuscaloosa in 2011, and I went there to help the week after, and I mean, it looked like what Hiroshima or Nagasaki must have looked like. I mean, it was like an atomic bomb had gone through Tuscaloosa on that day in April. And Coach Chizik brought the Auburn team there to help, and there's a love underside to the Iron Bowl, and that's part of why it's so personal.
Yeah. Well, Dave, I would wager we think we're so different, and we're really not. When you peel the onion back, Auburn and Alabama fans overall, some unique cultural differences, I guess, but I think we're going to hate each other all year long. But if somebody from the outside tries to attack us, there's unity there. It's like Army and Navy a little bit.
Yeah,
and that's true. That is true.
And speaking of being an outsider, what did I text you guys when we were texting back and forth during the Iron Bowl last week? I said, simply, Alabama-Auburn Iron Bowl is the greatest game on the college football calendar every year. I don't care what's going on, who's doing what other teams are doing. It is the must watch. I remember in 84 and 86 watching every play of each of those Iron Bowls, because LSU in 84, we needed Alabama to beat Auburn, and then we needed Auburn to beat Alabama, which we were the recipients of 2 trips to New Orleans in the Sugar Bowl, because the other team, which was undefeated, had to beat the heavy favorite, and they did. I will tell you, there's only 2 times I've ever risked my life to cheer for my Tigers. Both of them were in the state of Alabama. At the Auburn LSU game, when the barn was on fire and the steel girders of Jordan hair could have melted like I melt butter in my big green egg back here. And then the second one was in 1984, sitting in Legion Field for the LSU-Alabama game, when tornadoes were dancing around Birmingham like a belly dancer dancing in friggin' Iraq. And let me tell you, nobody moved from Birmingham Legion Field. Those old girders from that old stadium could have lifted that thing up like a friggin' paper airplane. and nobody moved.
It was scary.
We got nobody does tornado like the city of Birmingham. I mean,
let me say this. Let me get this in from Franzbridge. First off, I know my dad's listening. He's an architect, and we got Maury Gaston, mechanical engineer. I'd like someone to tell us, could those girders have burned? I'm not sure they would, but that's an engineering architecture question. But let me throw this. Franz Beard, great observation. Love this guy. Think about it. Fran Tarkenton's best friend at Georgia, Bear Bryant's top assistant at Bama, and the head coach at Auburn. So I'm going to throw one to you right now. This is a picture in Mallory's room. I'm in my little office I make when we come over here to Atlanta to visit. And we got this from Coach Dye. And this is one of my favorite pictures of all time. Can y'all see it? And it's the two of them.
They're rabbit hunting.
Yeah, rabbit hunting, not quail hunting, rabbit hunting. But you know what's the coolest thing about all these Francis Tarkenton is, I think, 82 now. Works up here in Buckhead. And I know someone, he said most mornings he'll pull up next to me. And he's got a lot of successful businesses. One of Mallory's friends works for him. She works for him as his assistant. And you think he called him Patrick Fane Dye. And Coach Dye called him Francis. And I'll tell you, George Lapidus, rest his soul, great sports writer for the Memphis Press-Seminar, and who I look at. You talk about a Rolodex. He had 3 of them. He knew everybody in American sports. He knew the best restaurants to go to. I'll never forget 1982 in August in the Skywriters tour, preseason. It said the front headline of the Memphis Press-Seminar was, "Oh, Bo, Auburn claims a Herschel clone." Yeah. And he wrote this story, and then he had a great line in there from Pat Dye. Coach Dye talked about when he was a kid, they used to sell watermelons out of a wagon in Blythe, Georgia, when he was a little kid. And he had a slogan. It said, "Watermelon, watermelon, red to the Rhine. If you're going to buy one of mine." You just got to love a kid like that growing up. And I was talking to Ben Troop off the air yesterday, and I love Ben Troop. The guy gets it. He understands the connection that fans have with guys like him that played for the Gators, that played for in the NFL. But what he said he dreamed of as a kid was playing for the Swainsboro, Georgia Tigers. And he ended up going in high school.
Augusta, not Augusta, but Swainsboro.
Yeah, and he ends up going to Augusta for high school, and one of his teammates was a pretty good defensive back, Carlos Rogers at Auburn, that won the Jim Thorpe Award. But I said, Ben, you're the only guy I know who had 4 kids in a 2-block radius of where he grew up that played SEC football. That's pretty damn good. There's something in the fried okra. I'll say that.
One Wednesday in June, when there's not much to talk about on sidelines, I think we should devote a 30-minute segment to just talk about Bo Jackson and just talk about what an amazing
Sign me up.
and just have 15 people on and tell their own personal Bo stories. I've never met him personally, but we're the same age, and I watched him, and I think hands down the greatest athlete of all time.
Yeah, now you see this from Maury Gaston. The barn fire, September of '96, the LSU game, which they won 19-15, was too far away from the stadium to affect the lower bowl steel frame or the upper deck concrete columns and cantilevers. It was dramatic, but not close enough to be dangerous. See, you've got to love these engineers because you can design it as an architect, and Auburn arguably has the top architecture school in America. I'm not biased, but anyway, we also have the Samuel Ginn College of Engineering. But I was there at that game, Frank.
I was too.
And the Flames were coming up, Doug, with it. It was surreal.
5 to 6 stories high, and I can tell you this: I'm not an architect and I'm not an engineer, but I'll tell you one thing. I had to go home and change my shorts. That's how close that shit was.
Hey, Rob, my dad, I sat with my late father, who was director of new construction at UAB for 30 years.
Yeah.
They never quit building there, as you know.
No.
And so Dad knew structural engineering enough. And I asked him, "Is that safe over there?" And he said, "No." And it was sort of, we were on the west, the press box side. There was a depth perception problem to know how close it was to the stadium, to Maury's point. But the thing I worried about was fan panic, because I'm sure they felt the warmth on that side. And if you have people fleeing for the exits, you can get people trampled and worse.
Yeah.
I absolutely felt it. And I was in the LSU section where y'all put us on the upper deck, but I was on that side of the stadium. I was just on the other side, which was interesting because as high as we were, we literally could see the entire flame shoot. So that corner of the end zone on that side gave us a view outside of the end zone where even the people in the end zone really couldn't see it back. I'm telling you, those flames were 5 to 6 stories high.
It was crazy. And real quick before we go to the break, typical of a rivalry in the SEC, when people were walking out of the stadium, people weren't going, I hope nobody was hurt. And it was the Auburn and LSU fans blaming each other for who left the grill on and the hot dog started the fire. We're going to take a quick break from our sponsors. Some of them we're going to be right back. Let me remind you, Red River Ford Toyota open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Service department on Saturdays open 7 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. 24 service bays. Lynn Hutchison, the team out there, they will take care of you. There are no vehicle payments until 2024. Of course, that's going to go further now because we're almost into 24. But over 700 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs on the lot. Brand new Fords and Toyotas, trucks, cars, and SUVs. Check out those new Toyota Tundra pickups. They are absolutely awesome. I drive an F-150. I love working with them. So get out and about. And also, ECS House Industries. They're making some of the most innovative farm technology equipment in the world. It keeps you productive. It decreases your downtime. It gets your crew out on the road, into the fields where you can be productive. What a great year in Arkansas. $14 a bushel rice is like $85 a barrel oil in the Permian Basin of Texas, where we produce 4.2 million barrels per day. But they also make the aerators for the catfish farms, ECS House Industries, Cherry Valley, Arkansas, and check them out. Find your ECS House Industry dealer near you. The better roller, the chopper, the better chopper, the pulverizer, all this great farm equipment in a 99,000 square foot warehouse in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, between Wynn and Jonesboro. We will be right back.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shoppe health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am R.A. Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
Curve everything else. Win, 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 win. These ops ain't lit. Mommy. Win, 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 win.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you, man. Everybody get those breaks, man. I tell you what, love our sponsors, support them. They're all the websites. You can tap on the hyperlinks, www.sidelines.live. People listening, people watching all over the place. Man, this is wild. Comments coming in fast. I'm trying to catch the text, and I appreciate sending your comments, questions, whatever, on YouTube or Facebook. I know a lot of people text me. And I don't look distracted. I'm multitasking, whatever the term is. I love this. We got a lot of people asking questions, but as Maury Gaston said, the most erudite sports show in America, delving into mathematics. I absolutely love that. Doug Dean, take that ball and run. Wait, I see the Christmas tree in the background. I've got the white hand on it. If you can see it, I guess you're decorating it right after the show.
Yes, and my wife and I have had mainly two marital disputes over the years. They're so trivial. The frigging thermostat. Will you quit turning it up to 72? For the love of God. Put a sweater on, for the love of God. I can't run around the house naked. You really want me to run around?
Welcome to my world, man.
Secondly, I love Christmas, but I loathe putting the ornaments on the tree. And so, that's going to be my day right behind me. You see it's bare, but I'll put the lights on. I'll put one or two ornaments on, and then I'll fake an injury or something.
Doug, Audrey, for the record, Audrey absolutely, she put her sister-in-law's Christmas tree up and decorated it last weekend. And she goes, that's my favorite thing to do. So if you want us to stop by on the way back to Memphis tomorrow or Monday, she'll do it for you. Just get her some, what does she like, Tito's or Redmont vodka, something like that. But I'm seriously, she loves it. I'm like, go for it, man. Get after it. So, Doug, you had some great points to make. We got, I love this conversation here. But, Doug, I want to hear this because the whole world is ready.
Oh, stop. No, what everyone, I'm sure, especially Georgia and Bama fans, have granular detail of their roster and who can go or not today. But, you go to war with the army you've got, right, Duff? And
that's right.
What I love about these coaches, most of them, like Philip Lawley, would say, all right, I'm sorry you got injured. Next man up. Let's go. It's still a war, But I hope that for both of these teams, they're full strength, because that's what the game deserves. But just quickly, and maybe Dave can give a more up-to-the-minute intel if he has any, but Jace McClellan, a foot injury, and Coach Saban, I think just a day or two ago, said he hadn't been able to do a lot this week, so he's questionable, may play, and then you always worry about somebody can play, but will they be full speed? And then Jalen Key, the defensive back, a thigh injury, questionable. And then the great wide receiver, Ja'Cory Brooks, who, if I remember, he's the one that nailed that big play in the 2021 Iron Bowl, to his credit. He's questionable. And, of course, everyone already knows about, it sounds like, unless Kirby is playing fox, dumb like a fox, that both Brock Bauer might be not 100%. I think you're going to see him on the field. I'd be shocked if you didn't. He really is injured badly if he doesn't play at all. And then who's their other wide receiver? McConkey.
McConkey. Yeah.
I think everyone plays today. I think the injuries on both Alabama and Georgia are legit. I think they play. They get a few weeks off. I think they are whoever wins today, and assuming if Alabama were to win, 20% probability of that, but that they make the playoffs, that they're going to be favored the rest of the way. So I'm a homer, but I think today is the national championship.
It looks that way to me. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful of Washington or even FSU, to our friend that was,
or Michigan,
hosting it. Yeah, and we've been brainwashed because of game results that Michigan and Ohio State just gag when they get in the playoff. But it's a different year, and maybe with Harbaugh back, they really will be able to steal signals again, Duff.
And what a horrible
Harbaugh can coach. I mean,
yeah, he can.
I was a beneficiary, Stanford fan. He can really coach.
And what a horrible life lesson if Michigan goes on to win the national championship. What a horrible lesson that is. Great, you can cheat. We'll just put your coach. Your coach gets to hang out on the sidelines during practice. He just has to go sit in a hotel room and only talk to our coaching staff on a cell phone for the entire game. But that's okay. You guys win the national championship. That happens. Let me tell you something. You think the portal and NIL is giving college football a black eye? Let them go out and win the national championship.
Yeah, but what about this next week leading up to the Army-Navy game? That the kid, the 28-year-old kid who was doing it, an Annapolis graduate.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yep. Annapolis graduate.
Hey, Duff. Now, Duff, you're being so unfair to NCAA enforcement. You know that they will crack down. and they will force those Wolverines to vacate some wins.
Yeah.
And that is really tough. Tough on crime.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Even though Reggie Bush doesn't have his Heisman, I still see friggin' USC claiming that damn national championship. Let me tell you something. This would be a travesty if Michigan goes on and wins this. Because, look, you can't be half pregnant. Either you sanction them and there's teeth, or you don't.
Right.
You're a paper tiger. Are you kidding me? That was so fleckless, so impotent.
That was such a woke sanctioning. I mean, it's. I mean, you're right. Yeah, saying they're innocent and they're innocent. Fine.
Correct.
Rob, we have not. We've gone this 80% of the show have not even talked about the bombshell of the Piggies rehiring Bobby Petrino. Are you kidding me?
Well, I touched on it a little
last
when I said if a player does a Petrino and leaves the school and then tries to come back. Let me tell you something. Petrino, I'm just absolutely shocked that Arkansas would let him come back. I mean, you talk about desperate times calling for desperate actions. Woo-wee. Next thing you know, Coach Ogeron's going to be breaking down film in Baton Rouge.
All right, then. I got enough money to buy a hamburger. $17 million.
I got my Bloody Mary. Let me set up the old projection.
Hey, all right, Doug, I'll tell you, living in Memphis and in Arkansas as a dual citizen, a multinational, my Arkansas friends are like the Arkansas fan base. A lot of them went from the day before they announced Petrino coming back. Arkansas deciding to keep Sam Pittman shows how unserious Arkansas is about winning in college football. A day later, there's mixed reviews of how can you bring him back? Let's flush out your headgear, new guy. It's all about winning. Don't tell me you want Ward Cleaver there. Franz Beard's right. Let's be honest. You're not going to have a roster full of Boy Scouts and Eagle Scouts. You're going to have a bunch of guys that are borderline psychopaths. Bruce Pearl said it best about K.D. Johnson, the guard at Auburn. He goes, he may be a psycho, but he's our psycho.
He can fill it up from 30.
Yeah. So Petrino is what he is. We know what he is.
Mercenary.
But if social media would have been around 20 and 30 and 40 and 50 years ago, all these coaches that we put up on a pedestal, God help us. Doug?
Right.
First, I want to say to Matt Cain, I surmised that he must be a Knowles fan.
Yeah, I think so.
And
one would conclude.
I appreciate him. I like him. I like Matt a lot. He's the first beverages on me. When Auburn plays Florida State again, that would be fun, but not very likely because of the new format. But the Knowles, I really hope Florida State does not go through what Auburn did in 2004, and a bunch of other teams have been left out where it feels like a travesty. But I remember Duff in 2004 with that undefeated Auburn team, and you go undefeated in the SEC. I don't care what year it is. There should be some strong consideration against any other conference. Although USC was very good that year, Oklahoma less so, as you saw in that title game.
Look what Terry Biden went through in the 90s.
Yeah, and so, but I had all the Kirk Herbstreits of the world telling me as an Auburn man that year, Auburn fans, you just got to get over it.
Bullshit.
I mean, that's what you got to say.
Yeah.
And so, Matt, I hope y'all wipe out Louisville and get a fair shake in the committee tomorrow. But I think the committee is first and foremost about distributing political power. And then second to that, they try to get the most deserving teams in, or the best teams. But I think if they don't have Alabama and Georgia in tomorrow, then I think there's questions about whether they put the 4 best teams in.
Rob, I don't know if you're going to get him, but Bill Hancock is a definite request and invitation for next week.
Yeah, we had him on 4 weeks ago, and I'm actually texting now to get him back on the show this week. I'm going to do that. We're going to shoot for that. One of my son's friends, Reeves Edens, works, and he graduated from SMU. He's out there at the Big 12 championship game right now. He's going to be on the field. That's a big setting. Birmingham per capita is the football capital, college football capital of the world. But as a media center, Dallas is, and Atlanta, they're the big ones. In Atlanta or in Dallas, you've got the College Football Playoff Committee. You've got the Big 12, Conference USA, AAC, the Cotton Bowl. There's a lot out there. All of y'all know this. The Ohio State has minders on every damn TV network. They will put the narrative that Ohio State at 1-11 deserves a spot in the college football playoffs. As Franz Beard said when they had 14 teams in the Big Ten, Franz Beard said it a couple of years ago. He goes, I just heard they're going to get 17 bids to the tournament. I mean, it's unbelievable.
That's
Somebody
so true.
respond to me. Am I nuts or I'm right? I know I am.
Oh, you're totally right. If Ohio State is within a couple zip codes of greatness, they're the best team. It's been that way my entire life.
They get the ultimate benefit of the doubt to the point of bending and breaking it some years.
Yeah.
Now, some years they're deserving as heck. They did under Meyer, they did beat Alabama for all the marbles one year, if I remember.
They did, yeah.
But hey, guys, help me peek forward. Y'all are smarter than me. I'm just a simple country lawyer here in Birmingham, you know.
All right, Matlock.
No, and I'm not a lawyer, by the way. But I wonder if it were 2024 today, am I right that the 12th team is a group of 5? Cinderella? Did I hear that right?
Yeah. So if this were next year, teams like Tulane, SMU, Troy would be playing for that 12th slot, which I love.
That's awesome because
one year I think Jeff Monken's going to get Army there.
Well, hey, look, I got to tell you, Tulane wouldn't be the 12th seed if it was this year, brother. They would be like about the 8th or 9th seed.
You're right.
If they're fair.
You're exactly
shame
right.
that Liberty doesn't get a shot, but so what I love about, I call that romance, Dave. Keep the romance of a Cinderella in this. Why not?
Yeah.
And then now the controversy would not be the top 4 or 5, because if you're in, the controversy is probably going to fall in that 9 through 11 selection range of at-larges.
Yeah, and I mean it's a 12-team playoff, but it's essentially a Sweet 16 the way because of buys and stuff. So I mean you have a March Madness thing happen. You know, it becomes March, December, January Madness, and I love that. I can't wait for next year. It puts Alabama and Georgia in, and that's as it should be. But I think it's the Troys and the Tulanes and the SMUs of the Appalachian States of the world. Hopefully one day Armies of the world, where it's going to be really, really cool to watch them win one game and survive in advance.
And we will not have East and West division. So I assume there's a beauty contest of records and rankings to decide who goes to Atlanta. Correct.
Yeah,
by the way, I met a couple of the elves yesterday at the club I was at with Mallory and Tyler and Chandler and Audrey and me. There were 2 elves with Santa there taking pictures with the kids, and they're both math majors at Georgia Tech, and they were worried about. I said, I don't think you're going to have a trouble finding a job.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Saban was moonlighting while he was in town.
No, but let me say this.
That is wrong.
I wish I could get Matt Cain the link. I don't know him. I wish I could get him the link and bring him on StreamYard for this last few minutes, because this is what Florida State is, again, it's an iconic brand. I know they didn't start playing college football until 1948. They don't have the deepest pockets or whatever, say, compared to the other schools with a longer track record. But in the time that Florida State has been here,
it was a girls' school.
It's an unbelievable tradition, and they fell on some rough times. Mike Norvell will have them.
They're back.
I mean, he will have them in the mix every year. It's just he's that good a coach.
And don't forget, Rob.
What a tribute to Coach Bowden. And he passed last year. Our Birmingham man, Coach Bowden. What a tribute to him. And I would love to see Florida State. I hope it's not at Alabama's expense this year, but I would love to see Florida State do well.
And don't forget how interesting it really would have been if in New Orleans at the beginning of the year last year. Don't forget, Mike Norvell was kind of on a warm seat. when we played in the Superdome.
Yeah.
And had he let LSU come back in that game and not gone down on a knee on the 1 yard line when we got that fumble, went all the way down, had we kicked that extra point and that thing goes into overtime and Mike Norvell loses that game, Mike Norvell has a totally different 2 years possibly because he was on a warm seat. He lost that game. He might not be having the fairy tale he would have had these 2 years.
Well, I don't think, and I think one of the most underrated players in America is Jordan Travis, the quarterback, and he got hurt, and I pray that he's going to be okay. I think we need to mention, too, my friend Greg Williams, the 6-time national champion equestrian coach at Auburn, said this. Dr. James Andrews retired last Saturday. Hopefully he's still going to do Auburn's bowl game, but I tell you, one of the coolest things ever, I was having a ruptured quadriceps surgery April 5th of 1990. I was in Columbus at Houston Clinic, and I was signing the paperwork the day before the surgery, and this man in Cole Haan loafers and plaid socks, khakis, a blue Oxford button-down and a bow tie and an Irish country hat, Dr. Jack Houston, said, "Son, what are you in here for?" I said, "Ruptured quadricep." And he went, "Ah." He goes, "I'm kidding." I was like, okay. So you think about Dr. Andrews learned under him. And if I'm not mistaken, and Ralph Jordan is listening right now, Ralph Jr., my friend up in Norris, Tennessee, absolutely love him and his wife, Eve. They're just, I mean, Shug is why I love Auburn. That's just, and my dad, of course. But I'll say this. I believe in the early 50s, the doctors from the Columbus, Georgia, Houston clinic asked Coach Jordan and the coaches something like, "Hey, can we bring our doctors and residents out here to treat injuries in practice and on the field on game day?" And I think Coach Jordan may have said something like, "Well, I was in World War II and landed at Omaha Beach, and I know the importance of medics." And Shug was hit with a frag of an 88 millimeter German gun, Doug. I think you can appreciate that. 4 days later, wanders into a field hospital tent. "Why didn't you come in here earlier, sir?" He goes, "Well, I'm a combat engineer, and I had a job to do to get our boys up on that beach so we can win this damn war and I can go home." I'm not kidding you. The story goes, and I've read this, Rich Donnell's great book. Shug said, "I damn near bled to death on the operating table because one of the surgeons was from Mobile, and we started talking about Auburn's win in 1942 over number 1 ranked Georgia, 27-13 at Memorial Stadium in Columbus, Georgia." You just can't make this stuff up.
And Coach Jerry he went to the damn Pacific Theater, as I learned from you all.
They were decommissioning his unit at Fort Lewis McCord out there next to Seattle, and Evelyn Jordan, Shug's wife, Ralph's mother, they bought a brand new car when she was out there, and they were going to drive him home. And they asked for troops to go, and Shug volunteered to go. And he went to Okinawa, and he said, "To the day my mother died," and she's probably looking down from heaven right now, still pissed off about it, "she never forgave the United States government for that. She had to drive that brand new automobile from Seattle back across the country by herself."
And he had to see things in Okinawa no one should ever.
Okinawa was bath. Yeah. It was, I mean, the Japanese knew that was it. Once we got Okinawa, it was game over. And
and you think about these coaches that we talk about. Doug, you have something to say. Go ahead. And I'm looking next week when you do the show with us, the tree will be lit, correct?
100%. It will be like Clark Griswold, baby.
There we go.
Today's quote that may have applicability to this SEC championship game. I love to write, Rob, because what's an English major going to do other than be unemployable when you first graduate? But
that's why you're a lawyer.
But so I always loved the phrase, "The pen is mightier than the sword," until I read from Douglas MacArthur, General MacArthur. Whoever said the pen is mightier than the sword obviously never encountered automatic weapons.
or a Jap bayonet.
Yeah. And it's just amazing to me. These, this show is all about, and I give the credit to John Hearn and Maury Gaston, and Robert Durham, 3 great Sigma News. History, traditions, and heroes. The more you know about the people that came before you, the less of a narcissist and the less selfish you're going to be. Sure. But you'll also live by the motto, Make it better than it was when I got here. Because my dad, the one thing, his generation, he was born in 1928, and he turned 17 3 weeks before the first of the 2 bombs were dropped in Japan. He wanted to go. He tried to get his mother to lie for him when he was 16 because nobody went for a year and came back. You didn't come back till you couldn't fight anymore. They sent you home. But I'm going to tell you what, that generation laid the groundwork. And you say old school, say whatever you want. I wouldn't swap the people that have put a foot up my ass when I was a kid for anything in the world, the people that are the toughest on you. And you think about when you were at West Point, Dave, the honor code, and I believe it true. My great-great-grandfather said, your honor is dearer than your life. You know, and you can say all you want about what we say, agree or disagree, but we will allow you to speak your mind. In the First Amendment, free speech, there's no censorship on this show. You know, we're a little bit crazy, but it's kept us from going insane, to give credit to Waylon Jennings' great line in a country song.
Rob, can I know you're close to time. I want
to
give Matt Cain
a
gift from Matt. Looks in the avatar, looks like maybe he's 28, 30-ish. So he would have to go in the archives of YouTube to know this game, the 1984 Florida State Auburn game in Tallahassee. Matt, I'm telling you, brother, look that one up. It was the best game that no one ever saw because it was not televised.
Yep.
Shockingly. Anyway, it was the last team to get the ball was going to win that one. Unfortunately for Coach Dye in Auburn, after Dye blistered the referees the first half, almost got kicked out. That was a back and forth game, and the great Jim Fife would say, in a wild woolly shootout here in Doak Campbell Stadium.
Yeah.
So look that one up, Matt Cain. You will, even though it didn't go Florida State's way, it's a game you got to understand.
Well, if we got Arbitron ratings, you need to get Matt Cain one of those devices because he stayed the entire 2 hours.
Yeah. Let me tell you something.
Add him to the round table.
I think Coach Dye was talking one time kiddingly. He said before that Florida State game in 1984, he goes, you know, the officials always dress in the visiting locker room. And I went in there, and Bobby Skelton was one of the referees, and I'm in there watching him put his socks on, and they're garnet and gold. And I said, Bobby, go easy on us. But when Fullwood scored, he goes, he's in, forward. And the Tigers have done it. Literally the length of the field. And the Tigers.
22, yep.
Oh, my God.
He was a hell of a back, by the way.
St. Cloud, Florida, man. You know what? Brent Fullwood still comes up to Auburn now a lot. He's a high school coach, I think, isn't he, Doug? But bottom line is, man, we run out of time. Unbelievable show. This is fun. Man, wow, it is Savant Saturday. I like that nickname from Dave Tompkins. And of course, in the Army, as you know, whatever your name is, they're going to find a way to butcher it. You know, they're going to say, like, the first guy that I ever called cold calling to sell bonds name was Richard Large. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not kidding you.
Hey, Rob,
talk about Army Navy.
Alabama, this is intriguing emotionally. Alabama may well know that Oak State beat Texas when they kick off this afternoon. That could play an interesting motivational part.
It is. It is crazy. Let me say that most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. All of us are blessed. Let's go do some great things to help people. You never know, as Audrey says, those people you see on the side of the road with a backpack and a dog, there's a family out there somewhere that stays up at night worrying about them. You know, the Ukraine is what it is in other countries. Let's take care of our own and have each other's back. We got a great crew, great show. We're working with a smart producer now that's going to be doing some great stuff for us. Y'all know who he is, but great things planned. Everybody watch all these games today. We'll be back on Monday. And if I can find the end button, I'm going to go ahead and wrap the show up. But thanks, everybody, for listening. Get out to Hewlett and Dunn today. They're open all day and tomorrow, 1 to 5. We're out of here.
Good luck to the Tide, Dave.